Now, heavy rains brought parts of Lagos to a standstill on Tuesday, with flooding paralyzing traffic on major roads. Many commuters were trapped for hours, and the downpour once again exposed the city's poor drainage and flood control system. News Central's Victor Mbadike is on the streets of Lagos and joins us for more on this. We also have Kathleen Ndomgo, a consultant, who will be sharing her experience with us. First off, let's talk to Victor. Victor, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here. 12 Report. Victor, give us a sense of what the aftermath looks like today. Are the roads clear? How are residents coping after yesterday's disruption?
Masino, I do know that you might be having PTSD. Ranging from what happened yesterday. A lot of Lagosians didn't see that coming, actually, having spent several hours in traffic because of the downpour yesterday. But as it is today, it's quite clear. Traffic is flowing on my right down to, for those going to Agege or the axis, you can see the traffic is really clear. And behind me, for those coming from Ojota, the Secretariat or Bega, it's still clear. And behind me, same thing. So, but there's something you need to understand about Agege, the bus stop where I'm currently. It's a major spot in Lagos where every time the rain starts, this place is usually very, it's difficult to get out of these axes because movement stops when rain starts in Lagos. So when traffic is flowing freely like it does mean that for most part of mainland, you are likely to see that kind of scene, basically. So the question I did ask some of our commuters who I spoke to earlier, they did say that they wish that these things really stop eventually because they never saw that coming. Some of them were tired, coming from work and going to their houses and then having to spend as much as 4, 5, 6, 7, even hours going to just a shorter distance, just somewhere, for instance, maybe like mile 12 or K2. That shouldn't take them approximately an hour. Probably took them about 3 or 4 hours, and that's quite terrible. It's draining. So the situation really at the moment in Agege bus stop here in Ikeja, it's pretty much flowing, just like most part of mainland could rightly tell. But I also think that this is not very unique to Lagos. Every time the rain starts like this in September, for most times you get to see a lot of potholes, drenched with water. And so when that happens, vehicles have to, reduce their speed, and when vehicles reduce their speed, you're likely to get traffic behind. Sometimes residents are also one of the reasons why we have some of this traffic when they throw dirt into our drainages, and when that happens, you block the drainage, you block water from flowing, and these are part of the problem. I also think that there's some kind of so much attention being paid to our coastal highway these days, and maybe the state government is, or the federal government basically, are not really paying attention to some of these loopholes, because that in itself is something that is causing a lot of issues for our commuters who are, going to their homes from offices or vice versa. So I also think that from what residents told me, because they couldn't stay with me to talk to me because the rains were falling as at the time I was trying to speak with them. They said that the government should begin to pay attention to some of these things because they can't continue like this. As much as you want to pay so much attention to the coastal highway, you should also pay attention to some of these bad roads that have been causing a lot of stoppages on our roads, because when there are bad roads, vehicles can't move freely. When there are bad roads, waters are clogged in these places. But at the moment, I can tell you, I know you're going to think about how do I get home today, but the truth is most of the waters on our ways are all good. They've all got into the drainages. So whatever water you see right now, just pockets of them, located in some corners of the roads. But I think it's something that can be managed. You'll notice that we have our last mile officers right here trying to ensure that traffic is flowing as much as it should. And so that's just basically what we have here, Mazi.
Well, last mile officials might make the traffic flow, but they're not going to let the water go into the gutters. Lagos residents have been complaining for a very long time about this situation. So the question is, what are they saying government's response is doing? Are they satisfied with what government is doing, or are they still grieving over, loss of time, loss of business, loss of commerce from yesterday? Most people didn't get back home.
Okay, so basically, I did mention about last man having to, of course, the primary duty is to direct traffic and all of that. But you see, let me tell you, the truth is, usually when there are rainy days like this, it's usually a very difficult time for last mile officials, because when there are bottlenecks on the roads caused by water clog and all of that, vehicles do not move faster. So that's when they bring in their A game to ensure that these vehicles begin to move faster. For most often than not, commuters are always jittery about some of the activities or the energy that last month officials put into their job during rainy season like this. In fact, for sometimes you just see them probably doing nothing much. And without them, road users of vehicles do not obey traffic, for instance. So when we have traffic folks like the last mile on the roads, they intend to ensure that the traffic is not as bad as it could be when rain and fall. So the residents are asking that the Lagos government should begin to pay more attention to our last mile officials to do their job much better. Because usually they feel that last mile officials don't really care. After all, vehicles don't really obey them when they give instructions. So right now they need last mile to be on their game, because this is when they need them the most in Lagos. Of course, they may not stop our traffic totally, but they can reduce it as much as possible. They are also saying that our drainage system, so much money has been pumped in the drainage system in Lagos, but they really can't see the result. We still have, residents, train this into our drainage blocking and all of that. So they also want some measure of laws and policies that will checkmate some of these activities. Otherwise, we'll keep going round and round these issues, and it never ends there, Mazino.
Oh. Thank you very much, Mbadike. Mbadike, I had a friend who spent 9 hours in traffic yesterday. I also know that we have Kathleen here with us, Kathleen Ndomgo, and she's got an experience from yesterday. Kathleen, thank you very much for joining us. Kathleen, if you tell us exactly what your experience was from yesterday.
Nightmarish experience. I left the office at about 3 p.m. and I got home at past midnight. That's over 7 hours of traffic. And sitting in a car for so long, starting to feel spasms and your blood pressure rising. I told a friend, it's not life. It's not the way that we want to live in a mega city like Lagos. So it was quite a nightmarish experience that reminded a lot of people of what happened in May when the roads were blocked on the island. And up till now, I think a lot of people, even me, are still suffering from PTSD.
Well, Kathleen, there's something else that I really wanted to talk about, and is the fact that when we're trapped in traffic, people do not have convenience, or they don't have the ability to just simply express themselves when they have to go. I'm wondering exactly whether Lagos has taken this into consideration. With 9 hours in traffic, people had to resort to, well, open defecation, if you want to put it that way, urinating, eutrophication outside of their cars. How is this affecting Lagos when it comes to pollution, Kathleen, do you think?
The whole experience is an environmental disaster, if you ask me. While I was in traffic, I witnessed quite a few people trying to walk. It's a health and an environmental disaster. People are trying to walk to keep in shape, not to have blood clots and swollen legs. And then other people are trying to use the convenience. People are trying to turn around to find where they can, camp for a few hours and all of that. And the worst thing about this particular incident is that, like the reporter says, it happens all the time, every year in clusters of Lagos. This was the nightmare for yesterday was on the Lekki-Epe Expressway. And that road is over 10 years old. It's not been fixed and maintained for God knows how long. I remember telling a friend that after NSAS and the fact that toll gate fees are no longer collected, it brings to mind a worry that if they're not collecting toll gate fees anymore, then they might not want to maintain the road and give a probable excuse that there aren't any funds or resources for maintenance. The road has big, massive, holes and potholes, and that's an expressway. It's a dual carriage, three-lane highway on both sides that should be taking people not only within the city, but outside of the city, connects to Ekpe and other areas of Nigeria. So to think that people have to be in traffic for 9 hours, worry about their health, worry about defecating and urinating on the road, and worrisomely, the coastal road that you would have thought that when things like this happen, the agencies will say, hey, let's open up 33 kilometers and allow people to use alternatives so that there is some sort of succor was not opened to commuters. So we really have to begin to think that the traffic and the flood issues in Lagos megacity would increasingly become a governance issue as we head to the 2027 elections.
Kathleen, it's a very interesting suggestion you made about the coastal road there, because it is they have gone pretty far. You can actually escape most of the traffic inside of the Lekki corridor if that was opened yesterday. But I wanted to know, Mbadike, Victor here told us about the efforts of LASMA, at least from this morning. We could see plenty of them on the roads, and traffic is okay. But yesterday, I'm wondering whether you experienced any efforts by the Lagos State LASMA agency. Did they do anything to help the situation at all? Were they absent because it rained all through? And most people will tell you when it rains, they disappear. So you tell us first if you experienced any of their efforts, and then I'll come back to Mbadike to confirm if this actually happened.
So I headed out from Ikeja through the third mainland bridge and arriving, inward Victoria Island, there was a LASMA officer on the road the junction that heads towards Bayokuku, inward Ikoyi. So there was a lady there who was actually controlling the traffic and being very helpful and all that. But beyond that, inside Lekki and the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway, I didn't see any LASMA or other officials. However, interestingly enough, commuters took upon themselves to jump out of their cars and jump out of the shops and the houses that were around those areas to help, which was quite interesting. I was telling the person I was commuting with that it is nice to see Nigerians, come out to support others at a very difficult time like this. It must be also difficult for the agencies, because you would think that, capacity might be an issue, and other issues that I think, we can unravel as journalists. But then again, it's important to note that we can be helpful to each other, and also to see that the agencies, though they have pockets of people around, can't feed every single area of the traffic-infested roads.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mbadike, you've just heard Kathleen there, and you've also heard other stories. Apparently, your LASMA guys are not trying as much as we would like them to. But Mbadike, let's take a look at the flooding itself. If we're talking about the traffic situation, I'm wondering if you are perhaps maybe going to be doing an investigation into the flooding situation in Lagos and our drainages. Just one answer, because I think this is a very interesting bit to look at as a reporter.
Oh, well, Marcelo, you must understand that flooding itself is not the major problem, because flood happen everywhere in the world. Well, the major challenge for Nigerians and Lagosians basically is that, yeah, flood can happen, but can we have a moving traffic at least? I mean, imagine if you have dysentery when you're in your vehicle. Imagine what happens to you. So, I mean, when there's a stop in the flow of traffic, that is exactly where Nigerians are really, really angry about. And I'm pretty sure it's one concept we need to really look into. We've been looking into that for so many years, but we won't stop doing that. We won't stop, championing the cause. I mean, raising this awareness to the state government to begin to also pay continuous attention to some of these issues, because it's not a smiling. It's not. You have what happening said. I can imagine what hundreds of persons as well went through in the hands of. This incident in Lagos yesterday.
All right, Mbadike, I guess for a city on the go, for Lagos, when you got to go, you got to go. Thank you very much, Kathleen Ndomgo. Thank you very much, Mbadike Victor.